Hello, viewers. Welcome to Sunday Politics on Trust Television. I am, as usual, Ali M. Ali, your host. Well, an issue that has occupied center stage of late, and especially with the conduct and conclusion of presidential party primaries, is the issue of same-faith ticket in the days leading to the 2023 general election. The ruling party, the All Progressive Congress, APC, and its presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is caught in this dilemma. He's a Muslim from the Southwest. Now, to beat the June 17 deadline for the submission of names of running mates of presidential flag bearer, he chose Ibrahim Masari, a Muslim from Katsina State, as, well, by now you know it, placeholder, to hold forth pending the selection of a substantive running mate by July 15, 2022. That is a couple of days from now. Caught in a similar dilemma was Peter Obi, the standard flag bearer of the Labour Party, who settled for Doyin Okupe, a Southerner, again from the Southwest, as his running mate. Both share the same faith. Both of them are Christians. Well, the issue was momentarily shoved to the background in the media. However, as the July 15 deadline approaches, the issue resurfaces again. Attention again, not unsurprisingly, is more on the APC and Tinubu. Various interest groups, including religious bodies and others, have expressed divergent opinion on the issue. While some are insisting on the political desirability, others are of the view that same-faith ticket won't be a fair decision. Exactly a week ago, APC's Deputy National Organizing Secretary, Nze Chididuru, said the PDP and the APC, I beg your pardon, would consider quote-unquote competence and again quote-unquote capability in selecting a person to complement Tinubu's strengths and weaknesses. Some will say this is a new one. Joining me to discuss Bola Ahmed Tinubu's search for a running mate is Achilles Chud Uchegbu, a journalist, public affairs analyst, and a former editor of the Union newspaper. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Ali.
Yes. Well, yes. Before we continue, we'll go on a short break, and when we come back, our guest will share his thought on why the issue is generating so much interest. Don't go away. If you are just tuning in, you are watching Sunday Politics on Trust Television. Our guest today is Achilles Chud Uchegbu, a journalist and public affairs analyst. Now, what are your thoughts on the renewed dissonance of a substantive running mate of Tinubu? What are your thoughts? This renewed dissonance, if you like.
Thank you very much, Charlie. We are faced with the reality. And the reality is that APC, with its presidential candidates, seem to be locked in a dilemma on how to proceed. Well, the issue of the same-faith ticket has been raised. It's generating a lot of issues around the country. APC had argued that it's about competence, but I also personally believe and argue too that there are competent people across every religion. The mistake we've always made is to believe that Nigeria is about Christians and Muslims. There are other religions in Nigeria. Though they constitute a negligible minority, but we have not actually looked their way as a way of accommodating them in the scheme of things. Same-faith tickets, as it is now, it's not good for Nigeria. On the grounds that it comes as a statement of total disregard for Nigeria's religious diversity. Why I say this is, between 2015 and today, we have seen a gradual development or gradual descent of our politics into more of religious understanding than of a civil society. Before 2014, our politics has always been about the two political parties, where they are driving the country to. But before 2015, we had arguments, or by 2015, we had arguments of why Bola Tinubu's politics was cut short, leading to the emergence of VP Oshibajo. The players in that cycle at that moment talked about same faith ticket as of 2015. And a lot of people within the political parties at that time worked against it. And the argument was Nigeria would not accept it because it was a statement of total disregard for Nigeria's religious diversity. Now, if this resonates again with Tinubu, it also shows a trend in his mindset of saying, I don't care whatever happens, so long as I get my way. Of course, he is a candidate of the ruling party at this moment, but what may likely destroy his chances could be a decision to insist on same religious tickets. I agree that having someone from the South hold the ticket of the party for the presidential elections, it is natural and it is justiciable that somebody from the North becomes his running mate. That's fantastic. It's a good understanding. But we cannot make an argument to insist that only people of the same faith in the North can consider that opportunity, can take of that opportunity. No. I wouldn't name names, but I know there are also very competent and capable non-Muslims in the North who are also members of the same political party. Unless we are being told that this ready-made ticket is reserved for a particular individual who happens to be a Muslim.
No, well, my question again here is, well, in as much as a lot of people share some of these concerns you express, is why the keen interest on APC. Other parties, for example, I just in the course of this program, we mentioned Labour Party, for example, has a placeholder there. Another, a fellow from the South, or Southwest specifically. But the interest is not so much there. Why the focus on perhaps Tinubu?
Yeah, you're right. You could see that even Labour Party has brought in a placeholder who is also a Christian, also from the South.
Yes.
In other words, both the presidential candidate of the Labour Party and the placeholder who is, as at this moment, the running mate, are all from the South.
Yeah, exactly.
That tells you that it's an arithmetic that cannot work, because the framers of our political ideology in Nigeria have created a situation whereby there will be a balance between the North and South in the leadership of the country. As it is at this moment, the Labour Party has not taken care of that balance. It has worked against it. But why there's so much interest in APC is because, whether we like it or not, Nigeria operates majorly a two-party system. It is simply between PDP and APC. These are the two parties that have the capacity to win the presidential election as Nigeria is presently constituted. So if people are expressing their opinions against the decision of APC to think of same religious ticket, they are nothing they fear that could lead the party to lose the next elections. Labour Party is not yet there because, as it were, I don't see the Labour Party creating that scenario, the possibility of springing a surprise at the next general elections.
Well, like we said, as Deputy National Organizing Secretary of the APC is actually, well, not specific, but he says something about competence. And a lot of Nigerians will ask, what is even that in perhaps choosing a substantive running mate now? Now, in competence, do you see the possibility of someone not necessarily having the same faith with the flag bearer now? What do you even understand by competence?
Like I said earlier, I said I wouldn't name any names.
Yes.
But I know there are people from the north who are not of the same faith with the flag bearer, who are equally competent, who are very well qualified, both academically, they are qualified, experience in public service, experience in politics, they are all qualified, who also have a level of acceptability across the country. Right? If we look at even within the present government, there are people who are serving currently in government who have that capacity to do that job of a running mate and who can drive that support from the Christian flank, from the north. There are people who can do that. So we cannot tell ourselves that, look, it's an exclusive, competence is not something that is exclusive to a particular religion or competence or capacity. No, it's not exclusive to any particular group of persons. It's a human trait. People who have expressed it are there. There are people who government have appointed into government at this point from the north who are Christians also have expressed their competence and their capacity to do that. Unless you are telling us also by another way that even the government that has appointed these people to office does not know that these people are not even competent to do the job they are doing currently. That could be another language you're telling us.
Well, still talking about the substantive running mate for Bola Tinubu, you did say, well, from what had happened leading to the 2015 election, that perhaps that made it perhaps impossible. We all know that what happened, at least some of us in the media, why Tinubu couldn't be running mate. Now the insistence that, don't they think between 2015 to date, maybe a lot of water like this has passed under the bridge that to make the previous position invalid today?
I think the kind of water that has passed under the bridge between 2015 and now has even worsened the case for some religion tickets. If, as of 2015, it was an issue, perhaps Nigeria would have said, well, it doesn't really matter. Let's go ahead and try it out. But what has happened between 2015 and today makes it more suspicious. I'll tell you one. This government and the ruling party have found it very difficult to extricate itself from the argument of an Islamization of the country. It's an allegation. There are no solid evidence to prove that it's happening, but there are people who solidly believe, strongly hold that view that there's a plot to Islamize the nation. And this plot is driven by the party. That's one. Secondly, as it is currently, the national leadership of the party is in the hands of a Muslim. The presidential candidate is a Muslim. Now, if you bring out a vice president, also a Muslim, you are going to confirm the fears of people who believe that, look, you have a sinister plan. And those fears, there's no way you're going to tell them it's not true because they're looking at what you have presented. And they will tell you, normally we are good at conjectures. We generate those conjectures and say, look, 1 and 1 here is actually 2. That is what these people are working at. And you find it also difficult to have that credibility to proceed as a government. Because, don't forget, just about 2 or 3 days ago, there's a letter that surfaced from the Senate of the United States of America, where 5 senators wrote a letter repudiating the Secretary of State for delisting Nigeria from countries of interest. And they put up the ground for this.
Country of particular concern.
And the argument is that, look, there's so much religious intolerance in Nigeria. Now, within that background, you're presenting this. You're not likely going to confirm their fears and say, look, it is actually true that you're not showing any regard for these other religions, alternate religions in Nigeria. So I think we have more or less created that fear in the minds of Nigerians that they begin to get scared about what is likely going to happen with the same religious ticket. Thinking back, in 1993, we had some religious tickets. But the level of conscientization of the public in terms of religious politics in Nigeria wasn't as deep as it is today. As I mentioned today, people didn't talk about it.
Well, I think we'll get to that shortly, but before we do that, we take a break. And when we come back, perhaps we can go back down memory lane. I was going to ask you that question, but since you brought it up, once we return from this break, perhaps you can discuss that. Okay. Viewers, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we continue with our discussion, the search for substantive running mate for Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Stay tuned, don't go away.
Every patriotic Nigerian should hear this. Any politician who means well for the people will never allow themselves or their supporters to engage in any violent, destructive activities. No politician who truly wants to serve the people and develop the nation will encourage his followers to destroy properties or take human lives before, during, or after the elections. The Nigerian public must watch out for these traits and isolate any politician who encourages supporters to engage in violence. No genuine politician or patriot will cause trouble and seek to destroy the very society which they aspire to lead or develop. Politicians who have the good of the people at heart will not allow themselves or their followers to engage in violence, destruction of properties, and then taking of lives. Be vigilant. By their words you shall know them. Shun violence. Stay away from politicians who want you to do so. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NORA.
Thank you for staying with us. You are watching Sunday Politics on Trust Television. Just before we went on break, our guest dwell on so many issues. Why it's not ripe for us to fly the idea, to run with the idea, for the APC to run with the idea of a same-faith ticket. Now, just before we went on break, he began to talk about what happened in 1993. And exactly that's the question I was going to ask you. Because way back in history, it has worked. I mean, the 1993 Abiola Kingibe ticket, for example. Some other people said even they go back in time under a military regime. But that's a totally different kettle of fish. Yeah. But why is it that in some instances the same faith ticket has worked? People made allusion, even in the parliament, for example, we had Iko Umanu and the former Senate President, David Mark, both are on Christian, Senate President, Deputy Senate President. Presently, we have it in the House of Reps. Why did it work then? Why is it still working in some places?
I think the difference here is about what happens between the executives and the legislators. If you're talking about some faith tickets in the leadership of the National Assembly, you also understand that the National Assembly is just to make laws. And it's not just the opinion or decision of the leadership. It's a decision of the entire House. Everything is put to votes. Now, the difference here is that we are talking about an executive that has so much powers to exercise, powers to make appointments, powers to decide what goes where. The executive is about who gets what at what time in the government. Now, if you look at what happened in 1993, Abiola Kingibe, one, you could attribute one thing to it, that first, Abiola was very popular across Nigeria. There's no doubt about that.
So it's Tinubu?
But Tinubu is also popular across Nigeria. No doubt about that. But what we have not found out was why the military annulled that election. Till this moment, none of the principal actors of that military administration has given us exact reason why the election was annulled. If you allow me, I could also make a deduction and say, oh, probably they annulled it because of the same religion together.
But it came to the fore that there were widespread irregularities in defense of the annulment. The military high command at the time, I remember very well, saying that there was widespread irregularity, whatever that meant.
Well, that was a claim they gave to justify the action they did at that time. Now, coming several years after, 30 years
exactly after,
to repeat that process will mean that we have not grown. It means that we have not learned our lessons. It means that we are incapable of helping our society to grow. Because instead of moving forward, it means that we are pulling ourselves backwards. I agree, the argument about competence is there, no doubt about that. A lot of people are competent to manage affairs of Nigeria. There are a lot of people. But for heaven's sake, when you insist on what has happened in 1993 to be repeated in 2023, you are telling yourself that your society is not growing. You are telling yourself that you are not even producing capable human capital to do this job. You're telling yourself that, look, we have not even helped ourselves to expand the understanding of what religion actually is in our society. You know, so we are putting up a wrong foot across. And those who do not understand the dynamics of Nigeria, and like I said, there are millions of Nigerians who do not know what the neighboring state is all about to their own states. Most of them only know about their own little environment.
Yeah.
And with the growth of the social media, the information they read is what somebody has said, not what they have experienced. Those of us who have lived in the north, who grew up somewhere in the north, understand how we lived our lives there. Then in the barracks, nobody knew who you were. During Salah, Muslim family will cook and share to everybody in the barracks. On Christmas Day, the Christian family will cook and share to everybody in the barracks, and everybody was one. Nobody knew north, nobody knew south. But that was back in the time.
Yeah.
Now, even the little boy on the streets knows the difference between the Muslim and the Christian. He knows what the north is, he knows what the south is. He hasn't experienced, it's from what he heard through from discussions around him. So he form opinion. Those discussions have created an impression in our minds. And this impression is that same-faith religion is not going to work for us as it was. Not because it's not going to advance political interests, but because there's already a fear that people have grown with between 2015 and now. And that fear is what is guiding it.
Well, quite compelling argument one is tempted to say. But still, looking at it now, politicians, now just slightly, slight digression here. Politicians, anywhere, mostly they want to win. Some people say politicians are concerned about numbers, not faces or even faith now. Now, how do you how do you react to that? Because if you look at the main opposition party now, some people make this reference that actually it jettisoned zoning because it wants to win. It thinks that it's by having maybe its flag bearer now, Atiku Abubakar as the flag bearer, maybe he stands a fighting chance with the ruling APC. So I don't know. How do you react to that? That politicians, they really concerned about numbers, not faces. That they look at people who can deliver.
My argument has been simple between PDP and APC. As of 2015, APC had an agreement, which was not documented in their rules, that we're going to rotate our leadership.
A gentleman's agreement.
A gentleman's agreement. Before the leadership of APC was changed, the previous leadership was working towards that agreement before it was changed and then brought in Abla Adamo, who one of his first pronouncements was that there was no agreement. And then they threw it open. It is kudos to the governors, the APC governors in the north, who insisted that agreement must be respected. And I think it was their own uprising, internal uprising, right? Something like a coup d'etat that forced them to break the back of the APC and insist and made it possible for the ticket to go back to the south in respect of that gentleman's agreement. Now, that is quite different from PDP. I always argue that when hunters gather to enter the bush to hunt, they don't stay by the side of the bush and say, look, whatever we get from the bush, whatever we kill, you take the head, he takes the limbs, he takes the tummy, he takes the tail. No. It is after the hunt that you cannot come to the table and say, look, gentlemen, this is what we've got.
Yes.
How do we share it?
Yeah. So in other words, it's after when you win.
It's after when you win that you can now say, okay, fine, now that the power is in our hands, the next administration, the next ticket will go this way.
Yeah.
If you did that before the primaries, before even you go to the front, probably you're going to lose support. Probably you're going to lose it. So I think it was a very wise political decision that PDP took to say, look, throw it open. Let's get the ticket. Let's get the trophy first.
Yeah.
And then we'll know how we decide how to use it.
Let's get the prey first.
Let's get it.
Let's get the bounty.
Let's get the bounty first, and then we'll decide how to share it.
Yes.
But for now, I think that's a very wise political decision they did. I agree that people from the Southeast are aggrieved. But so you don't solve problems by saying, I'm not happy with what you did. You don't solve this problem. It's about politics.
Yeah.
And in politics, you now have to sit down and ask, fashion out for yourself where your interest lies, how it's going, and then find out strategies to achieve them. For me, I don't think any part of this world has sat back and said, look, because it is my turn, therefore others say, give it to it, it's their turn.
Yes. Well, you mentioned briefly about the role of the APC governors in making the APC hierarchy to apparatus to let power shift to the south.
Yeah.
Now, some people argue that why none of the northern governors are perhaps not asking that also in the bid to balance the ticket, to make it a lot easier. Why not power also to have shift in the region, like to move away from this idea of same faith with the presidential flag bearer. Why not actually, okay, now since we've asked for power to shift, why not ask power to also shift from Muslims from the north? How do you react to that?
You see,
that's a good, valid...
It's a valid argument, but the truth is that it's also left for people within that enclave to rise up and say, look, power must shift from Section A to Section B. If you recall, at the 2014 National Conference, there was a decision about power rotation in the country. And part of the decision was that power must rotate among all the geopolitical zones.
Actually, it was from the 1990, the Abacha Conference.
It was emphasized at the National Conference.
Yes.
And that if a power rotates across all the political zones on a maybe 5-year basis,
6 years,
30 years,
yes, in 30
every
years.
zone would have had opportunity of leading Nigeria. And that decision also went down to the states, that every state must rotate the power among the component senatorial districts. Again, down to the local governments. And it also must rotate among all the company units in the local government as a way of giving everybody a sense of belonging and then advance this idea of justice for everybody, participation and inclusion. Now, in the North, that idea of inclusion should also come from the people who are around there to push that, look, the ticket must now shift from the Muslim to the Christian.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, we've come to today's end of today's program. We just started getting into the heat of it, but time is not on our side.
Okay.
Well, viewers, we come to the end of today's program. Thank you. See you next time. Goodbye.